Hi everyone. In today's lesson I'm going to be demonstrating how Cornell Notes work the way I want you to take them in class. So our learning intentions for today are we're going to be focusing on identifying the step-by-step process of taking Cornell Notes. So what you guys are going to be successful when you can take Cornell Notes with part of the template already filled in for you. So basically what we're going to be doing in class over the next few days is the first few times you guys take Cornell Notes this way, what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm going to give you guys a template. Part of it's going to be filled out, and then you guys are going to be filling in the rest. Slowly but surely, though, I'm going to slowly take away more and more of the parts of the template that are filled out for you, and you guys are eventually going to have to do more and more on your own until you're completely doing the entire process on your own. Okay, so I just want to do a quick review of Cornell Notes. So I just want you to remember that Cornell Notes is a way where we can remember more. We can also come up with an established way where we're taking notes the same way every time. So the advantage of this is that as we're taking notes, we know exactly the steps and the procedures that we're going to be using throughout the process. So just a reminder, Cornell Notes, the way we want to be taking them is that we're dividing reading into 3 stages: before reading, during reading, and then after reading. So when we think about these 3 stages, whenever we are reading, before reading, we've got to be doing something to prepare ourselves to understand that reading. While we're reading, we are taking a certain kind of notes, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And then after reading, we are creating a summary. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do these 3 steps. Okay, so while you guys are watching the video for the next few minutes, so I'm going to actually be taking some notes. What I want you to do is I'm going to be talking through my thought process, so you guys are just going to be listening. Focus then on how the actual process works and then what I'm doing to talk you through the process. Okay, so here is our Cornell Notes template, which I'm going to be working with you guys on. So again, you're just going to be watching what I'm doing and then listening to my thought process. So first of all, I just wanted to point out that this is the template. When I say the word template, what that means is this is just a standard, almost you can think of it as like a worksheet or something that you would fill out. So rather than having to just completely come up with the notes on your own, you actually have something that's already written for you. You just have to fill in more information. So at the top part, all you guys would have to do is just put in your name. You would have to put in the class, and you'd have to put in the date. I already had that done, so you guys don't have to watch me do that. Then what we're going to do next is we're going to put in the topic. So whenever we're taking these Cornell Notes, we're always going to be focusing on a particular reading, a particular lesson in class, etc. In this particular case, I'm going to be taking notes along to a reading. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to split my screen in half, and then you guys are going to be able to watch me take notes and as well as see what I'm actually reading. Okay, so on our right we have chapter 6, section 4 of our textbook. So this section focuses on Canada's rich resources in a vast land. Okay, so essentially we are focusing on, as is indicated here, the government and economics of Canada. Okay, so our topic right away is the dead giveaway right here is, and we have the government and economics. And then this is in our Canada chapter, so it's the government and economics of Canada. So you could either use this as for our textbook. Whenever you see a section heading right here, you're always going to see a circle, and then below that you're going to see sort of a subject matter. So for your topic, you could either use the subject matter right here that's in blue, or you could use the title of the chapter. Okay, in this case, I'm actually going to use the subject matter. So I'm going to use government. So again, just know that I'm taking notes over here, but I'm actually typing over here on the left side. So I'm going to be typing over here where it says topic, government and economics of Canada. Okay. So the next thing I need to fill in is the task box. So the tasks line asks you, so what are you doing while you're taking notes? So what I'm looking for in this box is I'd like you to write down exactly where these notes coming from. Are you taking these notes in class? Are you taking these notes from the book? If you're taking the notes from the book, where exactly are you taking them from? What section? What pages? So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to put, I'm just going to put textbook, chapter 6, section 4. And then I'm just, if you want to reference the page number, if it makes it a little easier for your notes, that's excellent. I'm going to put page 177 just to know where we start out. So again, the reason I included this line here for the task and topic is, one, whenever you take notes, you want to make sure that you're making some sort of note or reference as to when you took the notes, where you took the notes, and what the notes were about. Okay, so the date would give us an indication of when it was that we took the notes. The topic is telling us what the notes are about. So, and again, this might seem silly now, but say a week or so from now, you might not even remember what the topic of this lesson or part in your book was. So it does help to list the topic. And the task is an easy way to reference where are we getting this information from. Because if we need to review back to the book, here we have an easy note for ourselves, which we could use to refer back to later on, say when we're studying. So our next box here is learning intentions. Okay, so the reason we fill out the learning intentions box on here is learning intention box helps us to remain, it helps us to focus on what information is important. So directing you back over to our right, this chapter is approximately, it's a couple pages, and 4 pages, and it's actually giving us a lot of information, a lot more information than we need, in fact, to be successful in this class. So what the important thing that learning intentions do is that they help us to focus our attention to the most important points. Now, I could go through these 4 pages and I could just memorize everything, but it would be much easier and productive to go in and take notes on and learn the most important points. So that's what our learning intentions are going to help us to do, as well as our topic. So whatever we're looking at, we know that our focus is going to be the government and economy of Canada. So if there's anything in this chapter that's too much off task, that gets us away from the topic of government and economics in Canada, we're going to know that that's something we don't need to record, we don't need to write down. So let's try to figure out what our learning intentions are. So our textbook, as a general rule, actually will help us to do this. So our textbook does provide a number of resources as for what we need to be learning whenever we read a section. For example, at the beginning of each section, you'll see under where it'll say read for understanding at the top. And again, this is in every section of your book. The first page of each section first says read for understanding, then it's going to list some key ideas, then it's going to list vocabulary. So when we look in the key ideas, what you always want to look for is now you will learn. Okay, now you will learn is telling you what you're learning in this section. Okay, so essentially what we are learning in this section, so we're going to be learning about how Canada actually has a vast wealth of resources and an educated population to support its government and economy. A good strategy when we're taking notes is to put things in our own words or paraphrase, so that we're not just copying and that we can actually think and learn about what we're reading. Okay, so what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to say Canada has a large, again I'm paraphrasing, has a large wealth, I could say, if we want to paraphrase a little more, I could say amount of resources and its population is educated. Again, this is maybe not the best written 2 sentences, but at least it gives us our notes. The resources and education help support its government and economy. Again, when we write notes, they might not always be well written, but at least if we understand them and they help us learn information, that's all that counts. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is we've done all the before reading tasks that we need to do. Again, a lot of these will go much quicker as we get practice. But what we're going to do now is we're going to actually start reading through the chapter, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually be able to fill the information in. So what we want to do first, so a lot of students will do this in different ways. So some students will start out by filling out the main idea first. Some students start with the details. It's really up to you where you start, as long as you get all the important information. Probably the best strategy would be to start out with the main ideas, though, just as a beginner. So what I'm doing is I'm going to quick look over, and I'm going to look over the chapter. I'm going to try to figure out what might some of the main ideas be in this chapter. Okay. So again, we know from right here. So we have government and economy. Well, it might be a good idea to divide our chapter up. Divide our chapter up into 2 main ideas. We could say the government of Canada, and then for our second main idea, we could write the economy of Canada is, and then we know that we have to find out more information here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at this first section of the text. And this first section of the text, right away, I see from reading some of these, some of the titles to the different sections, I see, so again, connecting to your world. So this is just talking about how we can relate this information to our lives. And then this section is about the government of Canada. So we know this section is going to be helpful to us. This section, Parliament and Government, Federalism. Again, so if we start reading this a little closer, we can quickly figure out that that's talking about Canada's government. But then when we start to get to this section, we see we're now talking about Canada's economy. Now we're talking about natural resources. Now we're talking about the world economy. So again, these are our major divisions in the text. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and read through this section right here. And then when I'm done reading through this section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to summarize what the main idea is for the section. Okay, so I want you guys to just pretend like we'd read through this information together. So after a close reading, I found out that this is what the section is about. Okay. So I did this earlier. I'm just going to copy and paste what I have to save us some time. So this section is about the government of Canada has 3 branches: a parliament, and is a federal system. Okay, so that's what I found was the main idea. That when I read through the economy section, next I found that the main idea is, again, when I say main ideas, I'm just summarizing the most important point. The economy of Canada is based on a system of free enterprise which has an abundance of natural resources and relies heavily on trade. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to fill in some of the vocabulary words in our own words. Okay, so you could have done the vocabulary first, actually. Again, you can tweak the order if you feel more comfortable with a different ordering. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through the government section, and what we're going to try to do is we're going to list the key vocabulary from that section. Key vocabulary is going to help us to better understand the information we need to be successful. Okay. So let's just say, for example, the term constitution. And again, we can look this up in the beginning of our section under the vocabulary section. So the term constitution, we read this, it's the set of laws and principles that defines the nature of government. Okay, so putting that into my own words, I can say the Constitution is the laws and ideas that define what a government is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is for the rest of those vocabulary terms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill out that information. So what I just did is I filled in all the vocabulary terms in my own words for that are in the section on government. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be transitioning to the next section, which so again, when we are including details, one, we need to include in the important vocabulary, but two, we need to come up with information that supports the main ideas. Okay, so when I look through the chapter, one of the first things I find, so again, we're gonna just again pretend like we've read through all of this. You know, one of the things I found that sort of adds details and elaborates on this idea that the government of Canada has three branches, a parliament. The government of Canada has three branches, a parliament, and is a federal system. So one of the ideas I can elaborate on that is that so although Canada does have a queen, the queen really has no power. Okay, so again, I'm labeling this section main ideas. What I'm going to put in here is that Canada's queen and king have no power. Power belongs to Parliament, which consists of two groups, the House of Commons and the Senate. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to kind of re-review through this section, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find out what are the supporting details that go along and match up with the main ideas. Okay, so now that I've filled in the rest of the main ideas, I just want to point out where I got some of the information regarding these main ideas. Oops, I had a spelling mistake. So again, our focus is on the three branches of Canada's government: its parliament and its federal system. So again, so I'm talking about the branches of Canada's government. One, I'm talking about the parliament, which is its legislative branch. Two, I'm talking about the Prime Minister, which is its executive branch. And then I'm going to go on to talk about the federal system when I talk about how it divides power between local government and national government. So again, when we think about the main ideas, so the main ideas just kind of give us a picture of what the overall what we're talking about, what we're doing, whereas the main and again, I'm going to actually retitle this to details. Main ideas is probably misleading term here, so let me just fix that. So when I say details, these details are going to sort of fill in more information so we can get all the information we need. So next, then, what we're going to do is we're going to go on to the government section. We're going to make sure that we fill in the details for that section. Okay, so at this time, I now have the second half of the section completely filled out. I just also want to point out that this is, while I'm talking you guys through this does take a long time. It actually doesn't take this much long time when you go through it. Again, I'm talking you through it, so it goes much slower. So I'm just adjusting this real quick. And now for our final task, we're just going to write a summary in our own words of what are the main ideas, what's the big picture what was this chapter, what was this section all about? So when we read anything in a textbook, when we are listening to a lesson, at the end we need to think about the whole lesson as a whole. Teachers just don't present you with random details, random facts, random information. All the information you receive in a lesson or a section or a chapter is going to fit together. And in order to understand how the big picture and understand how everything works together and to be an effective student, you need to make sure that you're understanding how the main ideas fit together and how the main ideas fit with the individual details. Cornell Notes does just that, and then the summary really helps us to put everything together and make sure we're getting the big picture of the section at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in my own words. So after reading the section, I'm going to say that although Canada has a monarch, Canada's Constitution gives its power to representatives elected by the people. Canada's laws are made by Parliament, and its executive branch is led by a prime minister. So I want you to imagine that I ended up thinking all through what the chapter is about, and just ended up putting this in my own words. So when you do the summary, feel free to refer back to the text, but you actually don't necessarily even have to. You could just do the summary from memory, although it is sometimes helpful. Sometimes your memory can be wrong or misguided, so it is helpful sometimes to go back to the actual source of the text and use that to fill in the main information. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just trying to, in a few short sentences, say overall, what is the chapter about? What is this all about? What are the most important points? Again, we're leaving out the detail. We don't need a lot of examples. We are just writing statements that sort of give us an overall picture of what the chapter is about. Now, I know that I'm giving you a lot of information, and this can be very challenging. We're going to have more opportunities to practice this in class, and I'm going to give you guys more feedback on exactly how your notes are going. Thank you, everyone.